Jonathan, aka the Evolved Dad. How's it going, my friend?
Fantastic. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm psyched to have you on, man. It's been a while. We've been talking about this. I'm glad to finally have you on. Thanks for coming.
It's my honor. Appreciate the invite.
Yeah, my pleasure, my honor, to be honest. And tell us a little bit about yourself. How many kids you have? How long you been a dad for? I need your credentials.
So, married about almost 15 years. Have five kids. Oldest just turned 13. Then we have a 12, 8, 7. I'm so getting this wrong. And 4. I know the youngest is still 4. That I know. The in-betweens I definitely missed up over
Is
there.
that what happens when you get five kids?
I guess so. It's either that or it's sleep deprivation. I don't know.
Probably it. Was that always the
Um,
plan to have five kids? Or how did that come about? Or like before you got married, you said, I want five kids. Are you okay with that? And she says, yeah, okay. So five it is. How does that work?
There was no conversation about it. It was more of like, we'll take it one day at a time, just like see how things are going. And even to this day, people are like, "Oh my gosh, you have so many kids. So you're having more? Are you stopping? Are you?" I don't know what's happening from now for the next 5 minutes. I'm not going to make a decision that's that big of like committing to yes or no. I know people that have said like they're not having kids anymore. Then a year later, they're like, "Oh, we're having another kid." I was like, "I don't understand. You just told me you're not having kids." "Oh, I changed my mind. Exactly. My point. It's like we don't know. So what am I going to say that we are or we're not? We're going to take life as it goes, and we'll make that decision then.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one way to go about it.
Yes.
Okay. And did you always know you wanted kids? Or is that something that you realized at some point in time? Forget about how many you have, just having kids in general. Did you always want them?
I don't think there was ever like a thought process of yes or no. It was more of a thought process, I guess, of just when. I guess it was more of a societal thing. I think that if I would have thought it through more, maybe I would have been more hesitant to have kids and maybe plan things differently, but I don't regret any of it.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad you don't regret it. That after five kids.
No, I'm saying like even like the first kid, like it's not there's always the conversation, should I have a career, then have kids? Should I have kids, then the career? It's a topic for discussion.
You bring up an interesting point because and you know we'll get into it even further, I think, but you don't think it requires more thought about the whole deciding whether or not to have kids, or you just go with the flow, and if it happens, it happens. And how much thought and reflection do you think not only individuals, but should couples talk about it before they get married and decide to have kids? How much thought should go into it?
So I definitely think it should be a thought process because pretty much like any big decision that you're going to make in life, you're going to think about it before, hopefully. Like you're buying a house, right? There's a thought process. How am I going to pay those bills? What is it going to look like down the road? Yeah, some people just jump into it. But realistically, if you take the time you think about it, maybe it's not the right time right now. Or maybe it is. And as far as dating wise, I think there was just a mutual understanding between myself and my wife that we were going to have kids.
Okay.
Um, Number never came up as far as I recall. Um, I could ask my wife. It could be that we did have that conversation. I just don't remember. Um, it's definitely an important conversation. I know couples that it became a very big pain point as far as having kids at all, like when they were going to have kids and at what stage. As much as can be discussed during dating is crucial.
How about this? Should everyone have kids?
Not necessarily.
Your hesitation
I
speaks
think
volumes.
not necessarily. I mean, first of all, it should be a choice. Shouldn't be just, another day of life where all of a sudden, oh, we have a kid. Ideally, there should be some sort of a thought process. That's my perspective on it. And yeah, maybe some people shouldn't have kids. Maybe it's not good for them, for their mental health or physical. And when they make that decision, I don't think anybody's decisions that they make today should stand for the rest of their life, unless it's for something positive. Like if you say like I'm going to commit to working out every day.
Yeah.
Okay. Can something theoretically change in the future where you can't work out every day? Sure. So the same thing with kids. Just because someone's saying that they're not having kids now, or because maybe someone shouldn't have kids now, doesn't mean that in 6 months down the road that they can't have kids. They can't change their mind. Something else can't happen. So I don't think that there's one way, I don't think that it should be forced on anyone. I don't think anyone should feel like there's a societal pressure to have kids, which I know many people do have and
There
have
is a
had.
lot of that. There is a lot of that, eh?
Yes. Yeah.
You
Especially
see, and you
from
see it
from
on
parents.
X too. Yeah. You should definitely have kids. Like it's a must. Like you're
Right.
not living your life's purpose if you don't have kids. Like it's
I
impossible
think
to live a good life without kids.
we should probably start promoting like everyone should become a CEO. I mean, like, once we're going for it, let's go all the way. I don't think that anything should be pushed on. I shouldn't say anything. Something like that, I don't feel should be pushed on someone. And also, from a psychological aspect, if you're forcing the person to have kids, not obviously, you're not physically forcing them, but by coercing them over time and badgering them and putting all this pressure on them to have kids, they may hate their kids because of that. So
Yeah.
you're literally doing the exact opposite of what you're trying to accomplish. Like if you force somebody into taking a job, you're forcing someone into doing something specific, you could potentially be turning that into a very bad situation. So that could have a total opposite effect. Should people have kids in general, as a general rule? I think that kids are probably the best thing that a person can do. Does that mean that every person's cut out for it? No. Does that mean they're any worth any less? No.
Okay, who's in your opinion, who's not cut out for it? I mean, obviously it's up to the person to decide if they are or not, but what do you think? Who shouldn't have kids?
I don't know if there's a specific description, or definitely not a description of someone that I could think of offhand that shouldn't have kids. I think it has to be more of a personal decision, or really a couple's decision at whatever
Okay.
point it is, preferably, prior to marriage or earlier on in a relationship, whether they're going to have kids or not. I don't think that it should be, I don't think people should think about it as much as they do. I think it should be more of like, we're going to be going into an unknown. Don't do all the research up front, basically. Have a general idea of what you're getting yourself
Because it
into.
might scare you
Understand
away.
it will scare you away, sure. If you like really read into parenting and everything, you start reading all the parenting books. I don't know who in their right mind would want to have kids. Like if you really think about it, if you think about all these parenting books and all the things they go through, it's like a horror story sometimes.
The
It's
sleep
like, I
deprivation,
don't want that.
sleepless
But
nights.
yeah, I mean, if you look at it from the flip side of things, where you're raising a child like this little person that you're bringing up from the beginning. And that smile and hug that your child gives you will brighten you up more than any amount of money you could ever make. And that could have multiple times a day, multiple times a week, multiple times a year, hopefully many more times than multiple. And there's no way to describe that, but people aren't talking about that. The parenting books that you're reading, for the most part, are not going into the good parts because
Yeah.
we're experiencing those. We need
Or
to
the
know how to
people
deal with
you're
the
asking.
difficult ones.
Yeah. Or the people
What
you're
do you mean?
asking, even if you're asking other parents, what's it like being a dad? Most of the time, the
Oh, for the
guys.
most, they're complaining,
Exactly.
right? But that's also like it's become more socially acceptable to complain about kids than socially acceptable to talk about how you had a great time with your kids taking them to the amusement park, or you had a great time having a cat with your kids. Which is why like societal norms are just not cool.
Backwards. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
not
Well, I
going to
mean,
come like all like, homeschool and this and that and like all the topics that people look at and like, oh, so weird. But think, forget about like the flip opposite of societal norms. Just think. That's it. Don't just swallow it all up.
that some people are okay. They wouldn't be cut out for it. What do you think about people with issues like anger management or, controlling their temper, major issues with patience? What do you think about that? Should someone work on their issues before they have kids, or should they have the kids and then work on them? Because the thing I hear most often is, well, you know what? I had my kids and it brought out the best in me and it made me change. Do you think that's the case for most people? Some people?
No.
Very few people? One person? So
I
for
think
somebody,
that's
and I want to, I want to make sure that I'm being specific here. I mean people with major issues, not you
right.
know what? I'm not a very patient guy. I don't mean that guy. Okay, because that was me. Basically, my thought process was, I don't know if I want kids. I'm not the most patient guy. To me, that's not a major issue. It's something you can work on, and with practice and experiencing, it might come with time. No, I'm talking about the guys that have pretty big issues with anger management, controlling their
Right.
temper, things like that. So that's why I was asking, should they work on the issues first, or should they just go ahead and live life and have kids and somehow magically things will. I'm not trying to steer you in a certain direction for your answer, so I'm gonna stop right there and go ahead.
So I'm going to lean away from the second option for one simple reason. I don't believe that people should approach life haphazardly and by happenstance. You don't walk into a job as an intern without as much preparation as you could possibly have. You don't walk into a situation without trying to prepare. Now, some people do. And essentially, if you're going into a situation where you could have prepared to whatever extent, you're pretty much setting yourself up for failure. Why would you do that? That just doesn't make sense, especially where you have that ability. Secondly, whenever I've been asked for advice from people that find out that their wives are expecting or their kids about to be born, whatever it is, my advice always is start cultivating and creating that person that you want your child to become. Start that now and do that on yourself. So figure out, what do I want my children to look like when they get to their 20s and 30s, whatever that age is,
Right.
and start working on that. Build a plan before. And what you should be doing, or what I tell people to do, there's really how I see it, there's three pillars. There's health, wealth, and knowledge.
Okay.
Those three pillars are three pillars that you should try to get in place as much as possible before having kids. I'm not saying to delay having kids, but as much time as you can allot to it prior to. Now, wealth, maybe you can accumulate enough money up front, but you're going to continually grow it. But what you could do is learn about money, understand how to start putting money away, start practicing those things. Health, mentally, physically, emotionally, psychologically. Take care of yourself, take care of your wife. Make sure that you guys are as healthy as possible. Now, if there's a guy that's way overweight and he's like, I'm going to wait till I lose 500 pounds before I get married. Okay, that's extreme. I'm going to lose 50, wait to lose 50 pounds and then I'm going to have kids afterwards.
Hmm.
Who knows when that's even going to happen? And
Right.
maybe that is going to be an inspiration once he finds out that his wife is expecting. So, but start working on those paths. Start going down those paths. Knowledge. Start learning things. Learn about the stages that your kids are going to be at before they're there, because this way you could be better prepared.
Yeah.
Learn about ways to strengthen your marriage before it's on the rocks. Like doing all these things beforehand, that's going to set you up for success. Like any other thing that you want to succeed at in life. The
Yeah.
more you prepare before, within reason, the better off you're going to be. But the key is don't practice everything beforehand and say, I'm done. When you're setting yourself up in the beginning, set yourself up with a routine where there's continued growth, a routine for health. Again, mentally, physically, emotionally, psychologically, whatever aspects you can take on without overwhelming yourself, but building into your daily schedule. Wealth, learning about money, starting to put money away, even if it's a small amount. Even if you're only able to put away $1 a week, who cares? Eventually, you'll be putting away significantly more. But you got to start that practice now. And then knowledge. If you're only able to read for a minute a day, who cares? But the growth over time is going to, you're going to keep consolidating that growth to the point where you're going to have read all this information and been able to grow your mindset and you'll be able to grow everything else in your life. So start that in the beginning, start preparing as much as possible, but set it up in a way where that's going to continue through.
Yeah. I agree. Preparation is key. I mean, you go in there blindly, you're increasing your chances of failing. It's like
100%.
somebody that knows that they have anger management issues, and you're not gonna work on those before you have kids. Then that means, every time something's gonna happen, you're gonna throw an object across the room, or you're gonna have a fit or punch the wall or something. Let me
Yeah.
tell you real quick why I'm asking all these questions. I posted something on X this week. Uh, I don't know what kind of state of mind I was in when I wrote this, but I guess I was just trying to provoke thought, and I was just because this is something I believe. This is just my stance on it, okay? That
Mhm.
not everyone should have kids. That's my position on it. So this is what I wrote. I said, not everyone should have kids. If you have anger management issues, don't have kids. You lose your temper regularly, don't have kids. You have no patience for anything, don't have kids. You have too much going on in your life, don't have kids. You have a lot of drama in your life, don't have kids. You're always in a bad mood, don't have kids. You're not very nice to people, don't have kids. You don't know what to do with your life, don't have kids. Do the world a favor. If the above sounds like you, don't have kids because they'll turn out like you. We need good people to improve society. You want kids? Fine. Work on yourself first. Having kids first is not a solution to your problems.
That last line, by the way, is the key. It's like people, if we don't want to address an issue, try to look like to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. No, you got to stop. You got to step back, find that root cause. What's going on here? Address it, and then you proceed. Don't start saying, "Oh, when this, when that." No, right now, what's going on? Then start addressing it. And also, I think I don't know how necessarily everybody answered that. I'm sure there was some excitement going on over there.
Yeah, there's some juicy answers. Very interesting one to say the least. Look, uh, and it was very divided, I have to say. This post got a lot of engagement,
Hmm.
um, 18,000 views, 23 bookmarks. Those 23 bookmarks, I'm assuming they agree with me because they want to remember this.
I don't hope
63,
so.
63 likes. Again, they must agree with me. At some point, look, the comments were very interesting because a lot of people were saying, yeah, 100% agree with you. And then a few of them were saying, it's funny because a couple of them said, well, that's a surefire way of getting humanity extinct.
Maybe we deserve it.
First of all, I mean, yeah, well, when I read those, it made me realize if you really think that if we're telling people with issues not to have kids, that the world will go extinct, the humans will cease to exist. They're basically saying that there's too many bad people on Earth to the point where
That's what I'm
nobody would
saying.
procreate. That's what you're
Maybe
telling
we
me. You're
deserve
not.
it then.
What
If
do
they
you think
think it's
about
so
that? Will
bad.
we actually go extinct if people had issues didn't have kids? Come on.
So with context, no. If you said like, it really depends on how you're defining anger management issues. But like we were discussing before, where you're talking about more of an extreme case, where it's not like your standard where the guy's losing his anger. That's normal. We're not
Right.
talking about people that are perfect. But when you're talking about extremes, no, I think maybe your population would drop in the busier areas in the world because you would have more extremes there just because of the high intensity.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if you go to more rural areas, your population probably wouldn't decrease much, if any.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. I just, I don't know if they were exaggerating or what. The, this other guy says if that was the natural way, humans won't be fertile from so early an age. Make your children young and grow up with them. In a steady society, all this would be catered for and trained into children. Thoughts?
You're never going to have a perfect society.
No.
So that's not really, you're never really going to, throughout history, you always had the people that were at extremes. There's always people that were off the charts in certain ways. And people are always all over the map. Like there wasn't anything. Yeah, we strive to help fathers become better dads, become better leaders. But at the same time, if there's the knowledge that, this could have this negative effect, why are you pushing people to replicate that? Like, what's going on? Then fix them up, let them fix themselves up.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's time for that bloodline to end. I'm probably gonna get a lot of flack for that one. But like, in all seriousness, like realistically, if we're trying to, you know, there's no perfect world. That's for sure.
Yeah,
But
and
we
I
don't have
didn't
to make it worse. We don't have to like that's like taking a knife and walking around and just like trying to like, how they stab on the table. Hope they don't hit your hand. No person in their right mind would do that to themselves.
right.
So why are you trying to introduce more negative?
That's what I think. I think bad people produce bad children. If you're a shitty parent, chances are your kids are not going to turn out so great. Most of the issues in the world, in our society, to me, can be attributed to bad parenting.
Probably. Yeah, but that doesn't. I don't necessarily agree with the fact that I shouldn't say that. Bad parents by default would be turning out bad children. On the flip side of that, we do see how children stir up this emotion in their parents where the parents start to change. But that's not everyone. So,
Yeah, there are
like I said
exceptions.
before, right, there's going to be exceptions, and but still we're trying not to inflict pain. Like no one in their right mind would want to put their child in a situation where they had to deal with a parent that was had anger management issues. So why is it okay for the next person's to have that as a parent? Like, did you think about that? Or you're just thinking about it from the idea of society? Try to think of the person themselves. You wouldn't want your child to be in that position. I would hope. I'm not speaking to you. I'm saying like in general,
Yeah.
like a person wouldn't want that to be their child. Okay, that's not your child, but that's somebody's child. That's another person. Now take it even a step closer. Take it to yourself. Would you want to be the child of that person? I'm guessing not. I'm guessing
Uh,
not. I wouldn't.
Me neither.
So it's got to be just more of. I feel that people look at things also, again, a societal thing. They look at things at face value of this is the standard, this is how things are, this is what it is, without actually having a little bit more of a thought process, taking it to the next step. Okay, if we have that scenario, what happens because of that? Oh, I would have to be in a bad situation. I don't want that. So I probably shouldn't want that for the next person either. So it's like if we think past the baseline of it on the top level, yeah, it's like, oh, you don't want to have kids anymore. You don't want people to have kids. You want to destroy the world.
That's what I was accused of.
Seemingly.
Another one saying, "Oh, that's why the birth rate is so low." What? Yes, because I'm telling people with issues not to have kids, then they're obviously listening to me and this
And you've
little
probably been doing
podcast
this
I
for
have going
like
on.
40 years already. So like doing this for 40 years, just getting on the radio and saying, don't have kids, don't have kids. That societal thing just got into people's heads.
Yeah. I mean, I was obviously not expecting anybody to take this as advice. It was merely my thoughts on the matter, you know? I'm not telling anybody what to do here. I don't expect anybody to
Welcome to
listen to me.
X.
Who am I? I'm a guy with a little podcast in the basement, you know, like, you know? But some people took it so, I mean, to heart, and I don't know if I triggered something in them. Maybe they have their issues on their own and they've overcome them. And if that's the case, then awesome. And I know, look, I know some people who have had awful parents and turned out great. Okay. I know it does happen, but look, I don't know the statistics, obviously. I don't know what are the chances are, what are the chances of, somebody with major issues and then the kid's turning out fine. Because you hear it all the time, like, oh, he had a rough childhood. That's why he's like this, which is the valid reason of why the person turns out the way they are if they have problems. And we always go back to, oh, you know what? Oh, the father was a drug addict. Mother wasn't always there. So it comes back to what I was saying. Like it's the parenting.
Right.
Be a good parent. Chances are your kids are gonna turn out great, happy and healthy. Isn't that what we want? And I'm not saying don't have them at all, but at least think about it and ask yourself, am I in the right place right now to have kids?
So I think that on a much deeper level, I think that your what your message is that much more powerful. Because if you think about it a little bit more, I'm going to sound so like psychological now. The people that you want to get to tell them to quote unquote not have kids until they start improving are first of all not going to listen, and second of all not going to think they have a problem.
Oh, that's a big one there. First of all, you need to
Right.
realize you have a problem. So, I mean, yeah, 100%.
Exactly.
Most people don't know,
Right.
or they're in
So
denial.
that's right. So basically, who that's targeting is the people that are thinking about it. And it's a thought process of refocus, think about it, start working on it. Good. Now you're ready. That's how I see it. I think it's pretty simple. If you want to see it, you could see it as a negative, but like I said, I don't think those people are going to listen anyways, and they
Right.
probably don't think they have a problem.
Yeah, I think that's the most common thing is people not realizing they have a problem. And so if you don't know, then how can you fix it? Unless somebody close to you points it out.
Right. So that would be where a healthy marriage could come into play.
Yeah.
Like I said, healthy, where people actually listen to their spouse and
Yeah.
not just like totally disregard what they have to say. Um, but again, the type of person that I'm leaning towards that we're probably talking about how I'm envisioning them, I don't know that they're listening. I don't know that they're going to that level. So I don't know. I guess you would have some cases where you would have people that would listen still,
It sounds grim. I
but
know we're making out society out to be the this awful group of people, but that's how it feels
not
right now.
awful. Not
Well,
I wouldn't say people are awful.
stubborn,
I would say that blinded.
blinded.
I feel
That's a good
too
one.
many people have been caught up by dude, one of the best things that I've shouldn't say one of the best things. One of the good things that I did in my life, which I get flack to this day from many people, I don't follow the news. I have no idea what's happening with wars, with shootings, with again with the grim stuff. But I don't have any like I don't know what's going on in the news. Years ago, I stopped following the news because it was getting so depressing. I'm like, what am I even doing? I'm getting like my daily hit of sadness. I have enough stress in my life. I don't need to get this all piled on. I can't do anything about it. And people were saying, like, let's say something happens. And things have happened where either I found out or I didn't find out. And some person would come over to me and say, you know, did you hear about such and such? No, I don't follow the news. Oh, but how are you gonna find out? I was like, I just did. That's how
Yeah,
important it was.
like if something major happens, I think you'll find out.
And let's say I don't. So let's say I don't. Let's play this out a little bit.
Yeah.
If I don't find out about it, I've lived so many years with less stress and more happiness and more focus on my goals. If I take a hit, then so be it. I'm willing to sacrifice that because for all those years that I'm okay, that I'm thriving, that I'm gaining so much on my goals because I'm not focused on all this negativity. I'm not
Mhm.
standing around and chatting about all the stupidity. And now I'm able to focus more on the things that I want to accomplish and becoming a better person. I'll take that as a trade-off any day. And I feel that
Yeah.
there's with all the media and how everything is so like the more we get into content and understanding the ins and outs of the hook and pulling people in and you know the way that you're rewriting it and they're rewriting it so many times and they're paying people for the hooks. It's like, yeah, that's what the media is. But there are so many people that still don't know that and they're still caught by that hook. They're still caught by all these things that are being said every single day, which is one of the things that I try to do in bringing out my content is trying to call these things out in more of a way where it's not most of the time it's not as stark, like where it's like I'm calling it out. It's more of like something a little bit subtle just to get them thinking. Like at least people should try to start thinking, and then hopefully over time that will grow and that will grow. But that's where I feel like society is. Society is It's being run by people that are working to capture your attention in different ways and manipulate it. It's just the truth. If you understand anything about media and you can dissect it and learn it all on your own, there's no secrets. It's just all out there. Um, you get caught. You get caught in that net, and it's tough because, like, especially when you see people around you that you want to try to pull them out of it, but they're so caught in it, they don't want to listen to what you have to say because this billionaire said something and that multimillionaire and this politician, and it's like you just want to like scream at them in the face, like, "Are you even happy? Like, you're pondering worry and sadness all the time. Do you not like people don't realize, and they're so caught up in it, and it's sad."
Yeah, and it affects your mindset. It affects your mood, your energy. And then you transfer that over to your kids and your family when you're with them.
Yeah,
And it comes back to working on yourself. If you don't work on yourself and you keep having these issues, you're just gonna be a miserable person. And how's that good for your kids?
100%. I'll tell you just to slip in a little bit of a story. I don't know if I ever spoke about this on social media. I spoke about my car being stolen, but my car was stolen a few months back. And after I found out, I didn't really speak about it right away. I didn't say anything to anyone. And I must have mentioned it to my kids. And I said, "Oh, the car is gone." Whatever. Like very like matter of factly. And I remember thinking afterwards, I was like, I was tearing up. Hopefully I don't start choking up now. I was like, it's amazing how much I've worked on myself that I lost a car. I have to deal with insurance, obviously, and whatever. It was a whole multi-month process and lots of hassles and government offices and insurances and all sorts of stuff. Not fun. Um, but I was able to calmly say it. Like I didn't get all ruffled up. I was like, the car was stolen. Okay. And when it was like, oh, we had this in the okay. We'll learn over time what we lost. We don't know what we lost as of now. We lost some car seats. We lost some other things that were in there. We may never know everything that we lost. But okay. Now what? Like that doesn't have to affect everything else in our lives. We'll continue on.
But that right
So
there, that's look, it's amazing that you could react that way. How many people can we say react like that? Most people, their reaction would be, "Oh my God, the car was stolen. What the hell? Can't believe this. Now I gotta do this. I gotta do that. I gotta get a new car. How am I gonna get to work?" Reacting angrily, and the kids obviously saying that. What are you teaching your kids? Is that every time you lose something, to you, yeah, it's a big deal. A car, it's a car. So for you, it's a big deal. So you lose your temper, you lose your cool. For a kid, it might be breaking a toy or losing their toy.
right.
They see you reacting to your things. They're gonna model that. They're gonna themselves. They're gonna react that way, right? And then we yell at them or we get upset with them. It's just a toy. Don't worry, you'll get another one. Okay, it's just a car. Don't worry, you'll get another one. But
Exactly.
and I know it's negative to say, but I think most people wouldn't have reacted the way you did.
Probably not. And a few years before that, I would have reacted totally opposite also. And it's not even like people talk about going to the gym for years so that they could build up their body and this and that. I would say, I would argue to say it's 1,000 times harder to work on how I like to say, act how you want to react. It's 1,000 times harder to work on that consistently for years, but you get a million times the return. especially if you have kids, a million times the return. Because when I can go over to my kids and leading by example, not by words, I'm
Mhm.
not lecturing them and telling them it's only a toy. I'm not going to go over to them and say it's only a toy. I'll understand they're upset. You validate that they're upset.
Yeah.
That's normal. It's normal to be upset. I wasn't not upset that my car was stolen, but I didn't really feel that much emotion towards it but I know that I've worked on myself for years for that. But to go over to my kids and to validate it, and it's like, it's okay. Like, we're going to get through this. It's okay. By me being able to keep that level of calm, that's how I'm teaching my kids how they can get that level of calm for themselves. And we have no idea what our kids are going to experience in life. I mean, losing a car could be one of the smallest things that they have to deal with. We never know. We wish that they have the best, but we never know, which is all about like what are we teaching our kids?
Right.
We have one job. We're teaching them, we're giving them the tools for life. We can give them money, they'll blow it. Even if they invest it, they make a lot of money. Who cares? If they're not happy as a person, if they don't have the tools to be able to recreate wealth, if they don't have the tools to build a relationship, to fix a relationship, what did we do? What's the point then? So that they're rich, they could sit on a beach and be miserable, be angry, and yell at their kids? Then what? Like,
Yeah, you're just creating just your whole legacy would be just people overreacting to losing materialistic things.
right?
Okay, but let me ask you this. When did you start working on that though? Because you said you started working on that some time ago, and that's why you reacted that way to having your car stolen. When did you start working on that in terms of did you already have kids at that point or
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I was not a great father starting off. Um, I would not recommend showing up as a father as I did, honestly, which is why I very much lean on telling new fathers or soon to be fathers to get as much in line as possible and establish your daily routines, establish your weekly and monthly routines, everything that you're going to do to keep those things going from the beginning.
Mm,
Because as we both know, like once kids come, it throws everything off. But if you're already in
yeah.
a routine, if you already have that routine going, it's easier to keep it up. So you've established a baseline. You're building a legacy essentially. And you want to build that on a strong foundation. The stronger the foundation you build up front, the less patchwork it needs. The more you have to patch it later, the more you're going to have to keep patching up parts of it and maintaining it. It's not the same foundation that you have. It's a very different type of foundation. And not to say it's a bad one, but it's not going to be as strong as if you start beforehand.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, it's like we said, you can start off a certain way and you can have the kids and then it'll awaken you and it'll make you want to change. And for me personally, it was the patience thing. I didn't consider myself to be a patient man. And then I had kids and then I really tested my patience. Right? The
Tested
lack
your
of
patience.
sleep.
How?
And then it was never, but it was never bad to the point where I would get violent or, start swearing in front of the kids. So I don't think I was that impatient to begin with.
Right.
And I get that a lot of people can have the kids and then it'll bring about change in them. But at which point can you actually start working on it early enough that, well, like you said, you've built a routine and you've built the habits, the good habits that make you control yourself and behave the way that you want to behave. Like there has to be a point where, oh, my life is just too messed up right now. I wouldn't want to have kids now and mess up their development.
Who said that that's change ever going to happen?
Yeah, it might not.
What's to say? It's not like we get to a point in our lives where it's like, this is the crossroads. You got to make a decision which way to go. There's no specific time. So there's no guarantee that that's ever going to happen. That's not in my eyes. And I think this is what you were saying earlier. That's not a valid counter because there's no guarantee that that's ever going to happen. Who's to say that this person's ever going to be put in the position where they're going to want to change? Maybe they're going to make ridiculous amounts of money. They're going to be totally absent from their kids' lives. And when they're around their kids, they're not going to have any much of a relationship and they're not going to have given them much. And maybe they're going to go off the deep end. Like, who's to say where, like, you don't want to really rely on chance that, yeah, one day you'll probably maybe turn around, or maybe he will. Let's say he does change, but his kids are already in their 20s. Now what?
Yeah.
So there's no like, oh, when your kid is going to be 3.5 years old, you're going to have this massive change in your life where you're all of a sudden going to become this amazing dad. Aside from the fact that that's not great to wait to that point, but let's say that was an option. There is no guarantee. There's no magic switch. There's
Right.
no magical age. There's no nothing. So that's not something that we can really rely on, which is why the preparation is so key.
Yeah, it's like you're expecting that having kids is gonna suddenly turn you into this amazing person.
Right.
Like I had major issues with anger and violence before having kids. All of a sudden I had him and I turned into this
Angel.
gentle, loving angel. Wow. Just by having kids?
Yep. Magic.
Everything's gonna somehow resolve itself and life is gonna be beautiful, rainbows and butterflies, and all your problems will go away when you have kids.
Or kids.
Poor kids, yeah. Let me read you another comment because I want to make sure that I'm representing the opposition appropriately. I was told this is naive and terrible advice. Becoming a parent is one of the biggest reasons that people, especially men, actually grow up and become a better, more responsible person.
Two things. First of all, I feel like that should probably come from a marriage. Learning how to live in a relationship, learn responsibility, and start growing together. First of all. Second of all, if people would take their ability to grow and do things that were harder for them, like so many take inspiration from gym bros to go to the gym and become buff. Take that and stop saying how hard it is to become a better person and be a gym bro without having to show the results in a physical way and make your life 10 times better. I don't that just like came to my head at this point. It's like everybody has it in them. Anybody can do it. We all have things that we're so passionate about that nothing can stop us. It's just a question of choosing where you're directing that passion. And it's your choice. If you want to direct it towards self improvement and seeing how it's going to improve your life, that's your choice. If you don't want to, that's your choice. But I think that's also like the victim card that's played by so many.
Yeah,
How, like, I can't, in society, and this, you can, you just have to work harder. That's really all it is. You just have to work harder. You have to commit to it and you have to work harder and you can do it. If you keep telling yourself that you can't, then no, you won't.
exactly. Can I read you my favorite post? My favorite comment?
Please go for it.
Dumbest post I've read this week for sure. My children taught me all of these things and a million more, especially how to love truly unconditionally. And I will make sure my children are nothing like me, believe that. Not everyone should have parenting podcasts, and yet, dot, dot, dot.
hold on. I'm going to stop you over there. There's one thing that I don't like about about that reply at all. Forget about the overall of it and the conniving comment on there.
He shouldn't have a kid.
Even before that, if your focus is that your kid should not be like you have it all wrong. Your kid should be like you. Your kid should be exactly like you. Maybe not the you are now, but the you that you're going to become. You have to become that person because where else are they going to learn that from? If you're going to sit there and lecture for them about how they got to do this and they should do that and they're not going to do it. I don't lecture my kids about doing exercise and stuff. Although I do give them charts for doing exercises. They see me doing workouts. I do workouts with them. Yesterday we had we had a sprint. We sprinted down 2 different blocks. Thank God I'm still alive for this podcast. But my heart rate was up there. And whenever I'm getting out there and not as young as I used to be, but we had a great time. Yeah, I'm out there, I'm doing those things. And the same going back to the whole car idea. I've worked on myself to the point where I'm able to control that. And people may be sitting there watching this saying, "Oh, I can never do that." But you can. That's like the thing. You can do it. You just have to want to do it. You have to have that why behind why you're doing it. And the why should be that you want your kids to be able to be better people. You want to give them better tools for life. The only way they're going to learn it from you is if you practice it. If you preach it, they're not going to listen. That's just the reality of it. That's how we all were. That's how kids are going to be forever. That's the reality. And if you want to fool yourself, go ahead. But the reality is, the way we show up is how our kids are going to show up. If you're going to be someone that's going to be 500 pounds, sitting on the couch, eating your potato chips and watching TV the whole night, you can't expect anything more from your kids. And if you do, then you're just a moron. You have to be the one that's going to show them what is it like. There's a guy that's going to berate his wife all the time, he can't expect anything more from his kids that they're going to berate their own wives. But if you're a loving husband who's going ahead and doing the utmost that they can to help out their wife all the time, make sure that their wife is respected and all those things, that's what your kids are seeing you model. So any person that thinks, I don't want my kids to be anything like me, is on the wrong path. And I'd love to have an argument otherwise. I would love to have a conversation with someone to prove me wrong on that. Because I've yet to see a successful father. Now, granted, it could be that the kids turn out differently for other reasons, but I've yet to see a successful father. And by successful, I mean that he's given over his children tools for life. And you see that in how the kids grow and how they grow up and what they in turn are doing for their kids. Those are the ones that modeled it. Those are the ones that are the generational parents, the ones that are giving things over to their kids. And that's the most that we can hope for, is that we can give our kids enough to carry on to the next generation and hopefully continue on after that.
I want to give you a standing ovation right now, man. Beautiful. One last question for you, Jonathan.
Mhm.
Somebody comes to you, says, John, I don't know. I'm not sure if I should have kids. What do you say to him?
Why not?
Well, I'm not sure I'm cut out for it. I like my lifestyle right now. I like the way things are going. I'm not sure I would be a good father.
First of all, by the fact that you're even questioning if you're going to be a good father means that you're probably going to be a good father, because you're thinking about the fact that there is such an idea as a good father. Second of all, nobody's really prepared for it. Nobody is. And anybody that says that they're prepared for it is very quickly shown that they're not once their first child is
Yeah.
born. I don't- So nobody's truly prepared for it. Every situation is going to be unique because everybody lives in different places, has different accommodations, different relationship with their wife, different environments, how they were brought up. Everyone is unique. There's no question about it. As long as you want to show up better for your kids, you can be a great father. And by the fact that you're questioning the fact and saying that maybe I'm not ready is showing me even more that you are ready. You just need the tools to be able to take it to that next level so that you're going to be even more prepared because it's not about specific tools. There's no one rule book. There's the general overall understanding of self improvement and what to focus on, how to focus on it, how to get there and move towards that goal. That's all it is. There is no one size fits all. You can't tell me that every dad's got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, do a workout, go eat a steak and eggs breakfast, go wake up his kids and carry them on his shoulders to school that's 4 miles away, running barefoot in shorts, even when it's snow. Like, no, it's just not like that. Every person's going to have their own unique story in life, and you have to embrace that. You have to realize that that's the truth. Every single person has their own story, has their own way of moving forward with it. But as long as you're owning that and realizing what you're going into, preparing yourself as much as possible, and working on it every single day, you're going to be an awesome dad.
Awesome. Jonathan, thanks a lot. Where can people find you? What are you working on?
So, can get me on X, Twitter, at the Evolved Dad. From there, I have a link in my bio to my website, which has a link to my what I call my shortcast. It's like a 10-minute podcast, nice and short, simple clips. And I have a newsletter. What am I working on? Starting up my video podcast, starting to have guests soon, and have a short list of that already. Have some ideas for some more.
Okay.
And just constantly trying to put the message out there, showing people that they can do better. It's not as hard as they think, but it is harder than they think. So you can do it. It's just got to be, you have to be able to break it down a little bit easier. Gets very overwhelming for people. Just trying to help dads turn over a new leaf.
That's great. Thanks again for coming, Jonathan.
Of course. Thanks for having me.